Hey there, this is Christine Landl, and I am with my sister, my best friend, my business partner, Jennifer Ream, and we are so excited to be here on yet again another platform that we are creating and another chapter, another piece to our journey.
The Well Podcast. This is Jennifer Ream. So excited to be here with you guys. Our intention for this podcast is all about sharing our love for all things wellness, holistic wellness that is. And we are here to uplift, plant some seeds, and support you on your wellness journey. We've always loved being able to be out there with our community, sharing all the things that we learn. And as we grow and learn new things, we love to put them out there, and maybe they'll plant some seeds for you and help you along your journey. So here we are. Let's get started.
Hey, welcome back. Christine here, and Jennifer, of course. And we're so excited. I think I say that every podcast.
You do.
We used to do that. We used to do that back in the day too when we would shoot our videos.
We are always excited about it though. So what else are you gonna say?
I mean, it's just that energy. So we have our dear friend Trice Berlinski back here with us again today. We had her a few months ago and just had the most beautiful conversation about mindfulness and meditation. And today we have the pleasure of having her daughter Tristen with us, and to hear a different perspective and from a daughter and a child and a teenager now, and what it's like to grow up with a mom who is so present in the moment and all in with meditation and mindfulness, and just to hear another perspective. We've always, Jen and I had kind of a near and dear to our heart, a place in our heart for the teenagers and the young 20s. And we've seen through our work in health coaching and lifestyle coaching over the past 15 years that there really is a pivotal moment at that time too, especially at the time that you're in, Tristen, right now, and in your young 20s, that it's challenging, and you're kind of going through such a transition in life. And so it's exciting for us to be able to talk about this with you and just hear your journey through it all. I think that it's pretty awesome that you've had this starting so early in life. It's one thing as mothers ourselves that I wish I would have known when my kids were little, toddlers and babies. I would have done things so differently then. And I do feel like we were doing it a little bits here and there intuitively. Mm-hmm. But knowing what we know now, it's just a game changer in how people can grow up and be mindful and use meditation as a tool, especially in a time right now that anxiety is an ultimate high for children and young adults. So anyway, before we jump right into it, because clearly I am, welcome, and we're so excited to have you both. And let's get going.
Let's get started.
I'm excited to be here.
Such a soothing voice, both you and your mom do.
Yes, I wonder where you get that from.
Actually, it was so funny because Tristen also works at Well. And so, I mean, we've known Tristen for a long time now, and now I'm starting to, when I'm talking to you personally, I'm starting to hear your mother. I'm like, yes, oh my gosh, there's hope for our children. Yeah, that when we're planting seeds in our children,
sweet.
that I can tell that you use similar words, and it's very cool, to be honest, because you
don't hear that very often.
That's the biggest compliment, honestly. I love my mom. She's my best friend. So
Aww, Trice, waterworks. Aww. Yeah, that's amazing, actually. That's so sweet of you. So let's just start with your journey. I think it's important to share both perspectives, and we'll let Trice share a little bit first about her journey as a mom and teaching mindfulness and meditation to her children. And as we've talked about before in other podcasts, it's you have to come at it from a certain perspective and not a forcing and pushing this tool onto our children. Has to be very nurturing and gentle. So Tell us a little bit about how, if you could take a few minutes to take some deep breaths. But
Yeah, well, thanks, you guys. It's great to be here again. This is just going to, be a time when I maybe shed some tears because it's not just about the journey with Tristen, even though that's, of course, the most important aspect, and her sister as well, who doesn't necessarily embrace it as much, but I believe that there are things in there that I see. But it's also just about children in general and teenagers in general and people in general, And I think I've said it before, but it was like just when she was little, how I wanted to protect her. And it just occurred to me out of the blue that the only way to really put her in a bubble without putting her in a bubble is to influence all of the people around her as much as possible, her peers. But, there were many other reasons I started on my journey, but with respect to working with her and her sister, that started when Sophie was in kindergarten and Tristen was in 3rd grade. And I would be remiss to say it wasn't a challenge. And I think what parents need to remember when they're doing this, or teachers or whoever the role models are, continue, because there was a moment when Tristen was in 4th grade, and I felt very bullied, and I don't want to make you feel bad, but you know the story. She was probably feeling a bit awkward that I was coming into the classroom, and she told me, "Mom, the kids don't like you, you're not funny," and all this stuff. And I cried in the car for a little bit, and then I went into her classroom, and I told her teacher, "Let Tristen go, let her go help in another classroom," And that was like the best decision. And all of her peers came up to me and hugged me and held my hand and all the things they did and started talking to me. And I knew it wasn't the truth, what she was saying from their perspective. It was how she was feeling. So I let her go, and then by the time 5th grade rolled around, she was asking to be tucked in with mindfulness every night. So it was, little lessons tucked into stories, basically, as I tucked her in. And then there was a time, I'm going to let her tell the story about how she adopted the practice herself. But for me, one of the biggest moments that I like to share with people, because it's huge, is when I integrated a little bit of a different practice into, it's a walking meditation, but I integrated a little trick where I did it and I would stop anytime a thought or a feeling would come up. And she was upsetting me in this one instance where she was looking for something and I was feeling pressure as a mom to get dinner on the table. And all she was doing was asking for a pencil sharpener, She was asking where it was. But I, in my body, was having this reaction like, oh my gosh, she's, I'm going to have to stop what I'm doing. It was totally irrational. And I really had this rage arise within me. And I just wanted to yell at her, "I guess we just won't have dinner tonight," I was so mad. And as a mother, I was losing my cool like this about once a month. And then I would literally spend the next 2 days hating myself, And I did this walking meditation with that adaptation just from the kitchen to the basement, just normal speed. She's a persistent person, so she would have yelled for me again if it wasn't. So people need to realize these practices don't need to take that long. And in the middle of that walking, there was this recognition, this awareness that arose that it wasn't her that was upsetting me. I was being triggered from my past. It was something my mom had been, doing when I was little, is that she tended to be needy, and she had her reasons because she lost her mom when she was young. But as soon as I recognized it wasn't Tristen, which comes from awareness, which we have to practice.
Very true.
It's like I shed a snake skin of that old mother into the floor. And I've never yelled at the kids since then.
It was like a pivotal release for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you remember.
But gosh, the key there that you said is the awareness. Like, so many people have so much trauma and so much dense energy they carry with them, and they have no idea why.
Yeah, they don't even realize it.
No idea why.
It's crazy to see her have come so far throughout the years, because I remember us living at our old house, and she would yell, all the time. She would, not all the time, but occasionally she would just kind of lose her cool, like she said, and it's rare that happens now. She's a very calm, collected, peaceful person.
Yes,
so,
she is.
And,
it didn't always be that way.
I think that what that comes with, because I was like that, especially raising 3 kids and being at home with them all the time. You do want to like lose your mind sometimes. And
Hide in the closet, which I would
yeah,
do. Literally hide and lock
like,
myself.
is somebody yelling, Mom,
They'd
I
be
can't
pounding
hear.
on the door, and I'd be
my
like, I can't come out right now.
I need a moment.
Yeah, you do need a moment. Otherwise, you're going to lose your cool. But I think that there's so much intention around that too, because I see such a difference in me now just after setting an intention that I don't want to be that way. Like, I don't want to be a yeller or a screamer or, any of that. And so I think it almost comes to you naturally once you realize it, have the awareness and set the intention. It just naturally comes where you're not doing that anymore.
It's a habit.
Yeah, it really is such like a constant practice, like we've talked about before, that to get to that point where your reaction isn't immediately, because it's so like a natural thing for people. They're not even conscious of it. They just do it. Like they're not
it's like
conscious.
become part of themselves,
Yes.
and they don't even realize
They don't even
it.
realize.
Like they feel like they can't change it.
It's 10 minutes later, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe I just blew up like that.
Well, and you place the blame on your kids, and that's what makes it okay for you.
Right.
Like you'd feel that it's okay because it's your kids. Your kids did it. Your kids triggered you. Your kids did this to trigger you. And
But when
not
you shared that's when you had the awareness that this came from something deeper within you from your past, then that's when everything shifted.
Absolutely. And it's empowering, but it takes practice to allow that awareness to arise. But when it does, oh my gosh. And we can do that with small habits and big habits, but so many things are subconsciously wired into us from the time when we're a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it makes sense. So let's hear, Tristen, from your point of view, how this came to be for you.
Yeah, so I would say the big moment for me was actually when I was diagnosed with Lyme's disease. I got Lyme's disease when I was a freshman in high school. I went up north with my best friend at the time, and I got a tick on my head, and they didn't know what it was for weeks. I spent a very long time in the hospital. They thought it was a number of different things, and we just were like, nope, it's not that. Like, we got to get to the bottom of this. I ended up going to see a specialist, and he diagnosed me with Lyme's disease. And that's when I kind of like started doing treatments. I was on a lot of supplements for a really long time. I was doing red light therapy to try and help. Like, there was a lot of different things, and it was very draining to try and heal from this. I was very fatigued all the time. I had really, really bad headaches, really bad body pains. I mean, the list goes on. Mm-hmm. And the main thing that seemed to help me was when I kind of gave in to mindfulness and started practicing it on the daily, because it really allowed me to calm my body. And when you focus on your body and what's going on inside, it's like a whole new world, because I feel like so many people just resist those symptoms, and they just like are so focused on getting over them that they're not even paying attention to what they really are and what's causing them. So when you really just sit down and just, you're like, why is this going on, and what can I do to change it? And you look at that in a calm mindset and approach it with just like this whole new perspective. It's just like totally different than you would ever imagine.
So it sounds like you surrendered to it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing. Like
Accepted.
You surrendered to this is your present moment.
Yeah.
And the more I resist it, the more it persists. We know that that's what happens. So the lesson, you had to like really get present with what the lesson was for you.
Yes. And I've had struggles since then with my health. I mean, I still have Lyme's disease. So with Lyme's disease, you have it in your blood your whole life, and you can relapse from it at any time. So I've had to keep up with that mindfulness practice so that I don't get sick from it again. And that's been a crucial part of my health overall. So yeah, it's really important to take the time to just sit down and be in the moment and just accept my reality, no matter what that is.
I love that. And I think that's so profound. I don't know if you realize how beyond your years you are, because that is like something that even many adults don't have in them. Surrender is one word, but also to look at it from a go within standpoint. Like, what is my body telling me? What does my body need? It needs more love. It needs more nutrients. It needs more restful, calm presence. And it's all of those things, that being in tune with our body. And I love that you said how people, it's almost like they have this external notion to fight the symptoms and what can I do to stop these symptoms versus embrace what your body's doing and focus on healing and what you can do.
Yes. So many people are so focused on just like that go at it, like head on mindset, that it's like they go into this fight or flight, which is not good.
Exactly.
So how long was that period of time from when that started till when you started to notice that your body was healing?
So I got it in the summer before my freshman year of high school. I would say it was in about August that we went up north, and school started in September. Me and my mom actually were driving to my first day of high school, my first day of freshman year. I wasn't feeling good, but I really, really wanted to go. It was a big moment for me, obviously, my first day of high school. And I ended up getting to the high school parking lot, and I couldn't pick my head up from between my knees because of how bad the headache was. And that's when I started drinking coffee, actually, because the only thing that would help my headaches was coffee, black coffee. So I didn't end up going that day because I couldn't even walk into the school. So I would say it probably took me until about February of the next year until I returned to school. But between those months, September and February, I did school all from home. So I had a representative from my high school come to my house once a week and give me all my assignments. So this was obviously pre-COVID, so we didn't have all the online or anything. She just brought me a stack of my work. I didn't have any instructions. It was just all on my own. She told me to do it, and then she would come back the same time next week and test me. And
wow.
Yeah, that was
I mean, I remember that, but I didn't remember that part of that for you.
Yeah. It was difficult. But
yeah, I bet. I mean, that's a whole nother challenge in itself during that time.
But it was also, I'm thankful for it. It really taught me drive in school and in life in general. And I really saw how motivated I was to succeed. I got all A's through that time period and on throughout high school. So
good for you.
Awesome. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so you learned resilience at a very early time in your life.
So I think a lot of people might be asking, or be curious to know, I think, what, your mom talked about the time when you were younger and she was bringing mindfulness in and you were very resistant to it. And I'd like to hear in your words about that time. And maybe were there any pivotal moments for you where you shifted and you remember shifting? Maybe there is something to this stuff that my mom's talking about. I think that for parents, it's, they're very curious about, they feel like they're kind of talking to a brick wall sometimes. It's you think that you always have to remind yourself, I think I'm planting seeds. I really hope I'm planting seeds. But right now, I don't know if the seeds are going to grow.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I resisted it at first because I think it was just my mom, and I just didn't want her in front of all my friends, and I just didn't really believe in it at the time, I guess. I think it was just more just me being young and in middle school, and I was just kind of embarrassed to have my mom in the school, and I don't know.
But I think that's great that you say that, though, because a lot of parents feel like your mom did. You feel like, oh my gosh, they don't even want me around, and I'm embarrassing, and you go through this thing especially as a mom, you go through this little period where you're like, you feel terrible about
Yeah.
that. Like, oh my God, what am I doing wrong? So I think it's helpful when people hear that, you know, that was just, that's kind of a normal part
Yeah, it's just like
of
a
growing
phase.
up. It is
Yeah,
like
and
a phase.
most kids really do come around. I would say it was almost like I really couldn't get away from it, so I might as well just accept it. That's kind of like a foundation of who my mom is.
For
And
sure.
I just kind of like let it in one day, and then once I tried it, I was like, okay, this isn't too bad, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think there's so much to the whole embarrassment part of it. Like, is
Yes.
this going to go over well with my friends?
That was
or
the main
not?
thing for me, yeah.
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 So when do you think that besides your journey with Lyme disease, is there other ways in your, you know, especially your high school years, because those are so challenging, and even into your 20s too, but were there any, you know, pivotal things that happened during those years with mindfulness and the practice itself that you started noticing how it was helping you, like in relationships or?
I mean, everything.
Okay.
Like, every single day, there is so much that she has helped me through with mindfulness, and just her alone as a person has helped me get through. So I wouldn't say there's anything like huge besides Lyme's disease. I mean, I've struggled with anxiety throughout my high school years too. Meditation has definitely helped me with that. But just as a guide throughout life, she's really helped me with everything. Relationships, school.
Drama.
I mean, you name it.
Drama's a big deal
Drama
because-
is a big deal too.
Excuse me, drama, you know, a lot of parents are coming to me and talking about how do I help with that? You know, my kids are frustrated. They don't want to be in it, right? Especially in middle school.
And you don't know how to really get out of it. I feel like and I'm just like interjecting for a second, because don't you think that you feel that you have to be a part of it in order almost to be accepted into the crowd or into the what's going on? You can't,
Yeah.
if you step away, then you're not really like in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
so
true.
before she started practicing as a result of Lyme's disease, she used to say that she was frustrated with me because I wasn't like the other moms in terms of feeding the drama, you know, in terms of, oh, you know, did you know what so-and-so did and whatever, you know, drama. And then as a result of that, she told me one day, Mom, I actually don't want to be a part of that anymore. And that was like one of the biggest external shifts besides her being able to manage her symptoms. So literally she stopped breaking out in hives, right? And she didn't really mention that, but she literally stopped breaking out in hives because it was like she was able to manage her inflammation by keeping her body calm. But a small moment that made me cry in the moment is we were driving to school once she was better, and it was fall, and there was like one of those drops that come from the fog in the air on the windshield, you know, and she was just sat back in awe, and she was like, wow, look at that drop on the windshield, and isn't that beautiful? And it was just like something she never would have noticed before, you know.
Yeah, I would say mindfulness has definitely taught me to appreciate the little things in life. I'm very thankful for like each and every moment now, because I just have been through a lot of hard times, especially with Lyme's, where I wasn't going out, I wasn't seeing much. It was like I was in my room every single day, really struggling with my symptoms, and I was just focusing on school. And now just being able to be out, and especially with COVID now, just being able to be out in the world again is just amazing. And I just feel so much more appreciative.
All I keep thinking when you said that is how many kids felt that way during COVID.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine. I mean, I can, because I heard it from so many parents about teenagers just locked in their rooms doing online school and really suffering, really not knowing how to deal with that mentally, emotionally, and were just really depressed.
Yeah.
And so I think that you went through it prior with Lyme's, but then so many teenagers had to go through it during COVID. And is there, I guess I'm thinking too, like, I think a lot of people might be asking themselves, okay, we're saying mindfulness and we're saying meditation, but what is it? What is the tool that you're using? Like, what are you doing in the moment?
I think it's the how.
Yeah, how. Like,
How are you doing it?
For me, because there's so many ways that you can meditate and be in the moment, and I'm sure my mom could go more into depth with that, but for me, it just started off by simply sitting down and just paying attention to my breath. and just thinking in my head, in and then out and in and out, and just being really just slow and just like thinking about everything that's going on in the moment and just trying to just be, really. I mean, that's the best way that I can explain it.
Unplug a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think if you had, I think that's like number one too. I think just being able to just be with yourself and not focus so much on what's going on around you and just truly focus on yourself. Do you have few tips for those that are your age or your age-ish or in high school with the drama, with all of those things? I think a lot of parents would love to know, how you guided her through. But I also think it's so important from your perspective for the younger crowd to hear.
Yeah, I would say to start off by just being open to it. I think a lot of people are resistant to meditation, or they think it's like a religious practice, or they just don't really know much about what it is. They just kind of like don't really want to try it. I would say just start by sitting down and just noticing little things around you. And so many people, especially with technology these days, I mean, kids like really never get off their phones now. So just kind of setting the phone down for a little bit and just even looking outside and just watching the snow fall. Here in Michigan, we've had a lot of snow the past few days. So it's really about those little things. I started using apps too to play like calming sounds. I did the singing bowl for a while. My mom has many singing bowls, so it's kind of like a little object that you ring. It's very calming. Yeah.
Those are great.
Those are great tips.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Trice, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah. I will just say, she pretty much answered how she practices and just being always there for her. And I think it's really important to mention the other side. My other daughter thinks mindfulness is a 4-letter word. And as I mentioned earlier, I see things in her that show that she does have some depth of it, some practices that she uses in a way.
She's younger too, right?
Yeah. And so I can't say, 3 years younger, I can't say the same things I say to her, but we can find, first of all, most importantly, modeling it, right? And just continuing to do that. And that might mean, in some situations, your teenager doesn't really want to talk to you. So how to be with that situation without force and to constantly show up for her and be there for her without shoving it down her throat and trying to make her be like Tristen. But I'll give you one sort of cool example that happened recently. In health class, they were teaching about wellness and the physiology of the body. And because of my recent training in neuroscience, I was able to integrate some aspects of meditation and mindfulness without even using the words. And just through conversation say, did you know that this is why they're telling you to do this? Because I don't remember what it was, but just explaining it through the physiology and, the hormones and of stress and stuff like that. And that was really fun.
I think that's cool because I think that's an important point that you make because each kid is so different. And that's one thing I learned through parenting was that you can't parent the same with each child. They're different people and different needs and different ways of being. So I think that's really important point. Like there's definitely one of mine who I could have these conversations with really easily when he was younger and one that I could not. So I literally would have to just show up, like you said, just show up and just be like, I'm here.
Yeah.
My
You
mom
need
has
me.
definitely experienced that.
Yeah.
Me and my sister are opposites.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's a challenge for her.
But I think it's cool that your younger sister has you as a model because that's such an important part of it too. Like you're planting seeds with her as well.
Right.
Which is really cool.
Even if we aren't seeing them grow now.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm sure they will in the future.
Eventually. Yeah.
She knows they're there.
Yeah.
She needs them. She might need them in different ways than others. So I think that is, leading by example is the key and meeting them where they're at.
Yeah. I'll say, too, just from being around her, this is important for the audience, being around Tristen and her friends. Kids are screaming for this. And I've been open with Tristan's friends. I try to be more reserved with my other daughters, but they, when we're together, are very, very interested. And I think they need that support from their parents. Of course, their parents may not even know. And it's been tempting for me at times when I see kids really suffering to even reach out to the parents but to have that, calm within myself, because I get so excited about this, but I just want to empower them, because we don't have to be victims, right? And so basically, if you have any problem in your life, this is one of several tools that are out there, but it is a very important one, a very accessible one, because it's always with us, our breath, right? That people can use. And a lot of her peers have literally come and spent time with me by themselves when she's not even around. And that is huge, But the kids, it is a little bit of a new thing still. It's gaining momentum, of course, but parents realize, how valuable it can be, and how the kids are literally, it makes me want to cry again. They're literally, depression, anxiety, suicide.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge right
I wrote a paper in high school, actually, in my advanced American English class, about how meditation over medication over medication. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
But so many doctors will just prescribe teenagers antidepressants these days. And it's really sad. I just, meditation
it gets Christine and I's blood boiling.
Yeah.
To say the least.
It's a Band-Aid, and actually the side effects are why we're seeing such a heightened suicide rate, too.
I watched it with my son's peers, too, and watched it through the years, those that were medicated, and that was, that's just became the norm, unfortunately, and parents didn't know any other way.
Well, it happened to us when we were young 20s. Our primary care physician put us both on anti-anxiety and antidepressant, and I would never, after being on that, recommend that because of what it did. And that's for me, to each their own, but for me, the experiences that I had while I was on it and the side effects of coming off of it were like something I would never forget. But no one taught me the tools of how to go through those feelings. Those feelings are there for a reason, and they're not necessarily bad. We need to learn how to navigate them. Nobody was teaching that then. And thank God it wasn't much long after that we started integrating that into our lives. But, it's just such a
the fact that we can have this conversation right now and have the little platform that we have, but the fact that we can have this conversation and that there are people out there like you, Trice, who are trained now, and more are getting trained, and more are spreading the word like that. And then now you have it, Tristen. So it's planted in you, and you're going to go out and make those changes. Like, that is where we have to focus and be so grateful for and so appreciative of how far we've come and where we're going, because we know like this is the future of health, mental health, wellness.
It is,
all
and
of
it's
it.
very exciting.
It's very exciting. It's very exciting. So we can do better. We can do better with our next generations. And even if somebody, listens to this and shares it with somebody else, and it helps, another teenager out there to know that they're not alone, that their feelings are normal.
Yes.
And that there are teenagers like you who have gone through it and come out on the other side and, have...
You guys both mentioned feelings. A huge thing, a very simple thing for parents to do is to just acknowledge. Literally, if your kid looks at you in the eye and says, "I hate you," and, we could throw other things in there to make it even worse, but I will keep it clean here. That's okay. And when kids know how they feel is okay, they're okay. And I've seen a young student, a kindergartner, who, when he finally opened his eyes and participated in class, because he used to seemingly be sleeping every class, but when he raised his hand to answer this one question about how he was feeling, and he said to me, and he looked me in the eyes, and he was just like, "I hate my family." And to me at first, I was like, whoa, my inside was going, what do I do with this? And then it's so funny. It just takes a second to just stop, let go of the thought. And I just settled into it. And I just looked at him and I said, that's okay. And you could just see him
Release.
soften. And then he gave me a heartfelt send-off at the end. And the parapro in the class, the teacher assistant was just like, she was like, I was crying because for him to do that.
To see him be okay with himself,
Yeah.
you know, to like accept it and be
Think
okay.
about how often we tell our kids that their feelings aren't valid, or that, no, you don't feel that way, or you're okay, you're fine. You're okay, you're fine. You get hurt or your feelings are hurt. Oh, you'll be fine, you're fine. I mean, we tell our kids that often. It's like a natural reaction. But when I've noticed that I have two strong-willed children, and the moment you validate their feelings and tell them, like, I hear you, like, yes, it's okay that you're feeling that way, like you said, it's a game changer. It's like, gosh, yeah, well, now at least someone's validating me.
Right. And then they can let it go. And then you can say, now you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you've got to work through it.
It's
Yes.
that
It just
acceptance.
doesn't have to stay here this way.
Right.
You have to let it. And that's what I always tell my kids, feel it and then let it go through your body. Don't let it stay in your body.
Right.
And I think that part is so important too. I think that, just to wrap this up, I think that one of the messages I hear today too, just listening to your story and your mom's and knowing from our own experiences, is that it's so important for you, children, teenagers, young adults, all of us, to know that our struggles are there for a reason, and that what we can do with them is so profound by sharing our stories, how we got through them, using our experiences to grow from them. That's why we're here. That's why our soul is here, to evolve. And so what you've gone through at such a young age and where you're at now with the awareness that you have, you can do so many beautiful things with that. And that's how we've gone through our journey and why we've had 4 businesses. And, it's like, it's just how you take what you've learned and you share it. And your story is so beautiful, and where you're at is so beautiful. And I think that that's an important thing too for teenagers and young adults to realize, like, you're going through these things to work through them, and then you need to go share them and help others who might not know how to get through it.
Like
and
you said, they're there for a reason.
it's there for a reason. Yeah. And you don't have to stay where you're at, but focus on where you can go, focus on what you can do. All these beautiful things, lessons that you learned in the moment through your struggles and your experiences, and huge kudos to you for where you're at.
Very well said. Thank you.
It was so fun to have this conversation, and keep doing what you're doing. And I don't know if you realize it, but there's a lot of gifts that you have within all of this that you will be able to do great things with, and I have no doubt that you will.
Thank you. Thank you.
If I were your mom, I'd be so proud of you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm proud of her.
Oh, we're always proud of your mom, too.
Lots of love here. Lots of love.
There is lots of love here, that's for sure.
I have no doubt this will not be our last conversation.
I was just thinking the same thing. I'm like, we'll have you back on in a few years, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, just a reminder for people, how can they reach you, Trice, and just your work and stuff?
Yeah, they can go to triceberlinski.com, and actually Tristan's been helping me with my social.
Yeah, I was
Oh my
just
gosh,
gonna shout
that's
out
right.
her at.
I noticed, girl.
At
I
Miss
noticed.
Mindfulness. So it's miss._.mindfulness on Instagram.
Yeah.
Love our teenagers who know all the
I know, right?
It's actually it's been really good, too. You're doing a great job.
Yeah. She went to me for advice at first, and then all of a sudden I'm like, she's just taking this over. So she's really embodying it.
It's so
fun.
good.
It's a
It's
fun
fun,
job.
yeah. I love
Honey,
it.
do you guys have any final words you want to say?
Just that we appreciate you guys so much.
Yeah.
And thank you all for having us here and supporting this work in the community. It's huge.
Thank you so much. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my story and talk to you guys today.
Yeah.
I love you guys.
Yeah, we
We
love
love
you.
you
We
too.
appreciate you.
All
next
right.
time.
We'll see y'all later.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks again, friends, for joining us today on our latest podcast episode. We love sharing this with you, so please share the love if you feel called to all your friends and family.
And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. You don't want to miss out on what we're going to talk about next. It's always so juicy.
And of course, you can find us on social, Instagram, Vibe Well Lifestyle, and Vibe Well on Facebook. Love y'all.
And if you're in town, make sure you stop by and see us at Vibe Well too.
Yeah, we would love to see your cute face.
See you soon.
Bye.